Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reviews where today we have ourselves a track from an act named Iyanex titled Assalamalaekun. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on the screen. It's off of an album titled Journey of 1,000 Miles. So we're going to listen through this track from start till finish and we're going to hear what we think. Let's go.
Assalamalaekun mokile o. Mo terrible mo dafo nile, you no get money, you dey bodori me o. Assalamalaekun mo kangun mokile o. Mo terrible mo dafo nile, you no get money, you dey bodori me o.
I mean, I like the theme in general. I think the piano is really pretty at the start. The vocals with the tuning on them, they're nice and pleasant to listen to. The backings on the side and the latter half of the verse. The interesting tone of the percussion as well with the panning of it. And some interesting sort of like thicker textures here on the sides. Dissonance between the various parts of the free stereo field there with the two kind of uneven edges is kind of dope.
Reality me I pass by me, then go there you say them too like gonna lie. Them go there you say them too love you. I will never go, I won't leave you. Evil just eda kun egba na bluff. Assalamalaekun mo kile o. Mo terrible mo dafo nile, you no get money, you dey bodori me. Bele. Assalamalaekun mo kangun mo kile o. Mo terrible mo dafo nile, you no get money, you dey bodori me o.
There's a consistency with the theme there with the bass line and the chords there that makes it familiar and like easy to follow along to. I'm liking that there's slight variations with the vocals though to keep it engaging.
There you say that you love you, I will never go, I won't leave you. Ibolo jasi, I don't do it no now. Papa tell me say, make I learn work, Mama tell me say, make I go school,
And like the call and response between the sides of the stereo field, the center, and it's beautiful, man. The harmonies are gorgeous.
If you no get money, then no go post you. Yeah. Assalamalaekun mokile o. Mo terrible mo dafo nile, you no get money, you dey bodori me o. Assalamalaekun mo kangun mokile o. Mo terrible mo dafo nile, you no get money, you dey bodori me o. Bele. Mama tell me say, make I learn work, Mama tell me say, make I go school, I dey save water, kin le ro mi mu. If you no get money, then no go post you. Yeah. Ewara ye mi lo de egba mi. Reality me I pass by me, then go there you say them too like gonna lie.
I mean, like the really chimey guitar on the left side there is an interesting texture there. Kind of highlights the upper ranges of the chord progressions and really sweet sounding.
I will never go, I won't leave you. Ibolo jasi eda kun egba na bluff.
The strings and the hand drums as well come into this latter part. That's engaging. We got some polyrhythms going on in there.
Assalamalaekun mokile o. Mo terrible mo dafo nile, you no get money, you dey bodori me.
And I love the reverb and delay tail at the end to finish it off. Fascinating track. And welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track by Iyanex, titled Assalamalaekun, off of their Journey of 1,000 Miles album. What do I think this track is about? I think, first of all, Assalamalaekun, as I understand it, is it's like it's a greeting in Arabic, which as I understand it means peace be upon you. So that sense of peacefulness, that goodwill was communicated through the track. I think it's a great way to start an album. I think it's also worth noting that the part where like there was like love and always be with you and not going to leave you, etc. I think there's like a faith, whether that's spiritual or otherwise, like a physical presence in the person's life, just a connection they want to continue letting the person hearing it know that they are not going to be left behind, and that they're going to be taken care of, etc. I think that's really sweet. I'm not sure about most of what the lyrics were because I'm not familiar with the language and there's not like lyrics in the Spotify page. But that's okay. I nonetheless had a good time listening through this track, and I'm really happy that I had an opportunity to check out more of Iyanex's stuff work. As I have reviewed, as I understand it, I think it was Ain't My Fault, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, I did review Ain't My Fault from D&D and Better Days as well as Iyanex before. So it's great to hear more of Iyanex's material. And I think that the vocal style, with the story in mind, what little I understand of it, just because of the language barrier, I think it's great. There was some really pretty melodies that were sung there with really kind of believable head and chest voice there. The technique was solid there. I liked the variation of the main centers and the main sort of vocals in the center field with like the backings and the sides there and the overdubs otherwise in different frequency parts of the frequency spectrum. It was great to hear, like just that color overall in the mix. There were lots of bright textures and like a fullness to the tone there. We understood the value of going backwards and forwards in the stereo field to really, like elevate the experience for the listener and make the story more believable and more interesting to hear. And yeah, it was basically well considered throughout. I haven't got any sort of complaints about the lyrics. It was good. Tuning on the vocals didn't make it sound disingenuous or inauthentic, so that's obviously a bonus. And yeah, good start to proceedings with the conclusion, I suppose. The track itself is, 3 minutes 39, which is within that 2 minute to 4 minute sweet spot, which I'm personally happy with. I thought they did a good job there. I liked the fact that they had lots of different instruments within the arrangement. Like the guitar parts came in later on, but we always had like piano, drums, bass, different sort of hand drum instruments, maybe some string sections later on there. We developed and added these layers slowly over time. We had the story come in very soon or very early on into the track with the backing vocals coming in after, but there was that gradual development with that main motif that was kind of continued and looped as though the song was through composed and you were going between different parts of the stanzas, different lyrical stanzas, without sort of like moving too far away from what we were wanting to accomplish with the chord progressions and bass lines. There was like a triplet flow throughout the entirety of the thing, which kind of seemed like a slow dance. Although that the percussion and the phrasing was tested later on, we had some interesting 16th triplets, as well as like some polyrhythms going on with the hand drums there. But aside from like the hand percussion there, the hand drums, we didn't really have too much complexity with the rhythms there. The chord progressions were palatable and accessible and pleasant to listen to. And I think in addition to that, just what we had going on with not only the way the instruments were played, but also the motif itself, which had a combination of all the different elements I described before. It was just really pleasant and peaceful and uplifting, and in the combination of the really bright backing vocals with Iyanex in the center, it was well balanced. And even though there were some parts where like it seemed a little bit uneven, like texturally in the stereo field, it's simply because he had one thing doing one thing and the other, and we had like an imbalance there that was gradually sort of like there was an equilibrium found there in the stereo field as we added more parts to it and the song became more full as a whole. Things kind of got a little more complicated as we went later on because of the increased amount of layering that went on, but it never became too much. And overall, I can understand why the song sounded like it did, why it matched the story and the lyrics, and I don't think there was a note out of place. And that just brings me on to the recording, mixing, mastering, studio production, which is fantastic. I'm really glad that it sounds at a commercial grade because, I mean, like, you kind of need that nowadays. You really can't afford to skip or skimp on the audio quality. The vocals from Iyanex were recorded well. I think it was just a really good take and their great presence in the mix, and the tuning didn't sort of negatively affect the authenticity or how genuine the performance was from Iyanex. The backing vocals on the side were a bit more crisp and bright as well, which kind of meshed well. I'm glad there wasn't tuning on everything. I mean, even if there was, it was fine, but regardless, they were in a nice place in the frequency spectrum, and not only the stereo field with like moving around between the two is the cooler response, but it's also just the guitars, bass, piano, drums had their own space in those regions. The drums down low, like providing a nice sort of sense of movement forward with further complexity later on, not sort of stabbing the track too much. The bass line, when it came in with a little bit of exploration of the fretboard, neatly kind of slotting itself in when there was gaps without interfering with anything else. The guitars were pitched on one side and were in that mid to high range. The piano was nicely sort of filtered around the place and had interesting sort of cascading arpeggios that were really pretty to listen to. And all the strings and other elements that we had there as we went further on were nicely meshed, and the leveling was solid. I think that in addition to that, there was dynamic range to this track. Things weren't the same loudness the whole time. And, you know, it was nice and low without pumping, so limiting compression were handled. And basically, this is my review of this track, Assalamalaekun, from Iyanex off of their Journey of 1,000 Miles album. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show them some love out of their various social medias and their Spotify page, and stay cool, stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time as they need the help. More than ever, thought of crazy stuff going on in the world, and I will catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.